Hi everyone, welcome back to Sugar is Lava. Thank you for joining me again. I didn't mean for it to take so long for me to get back to you, but it was the end of the school year and we just had a lot going on. I even sat down to record this probably 4 days ago at this point, and then my phone about halfway through said, "You're out of memory, so we're done." So got that sorted out and cleared up some space, and we're back. So I have a lot to update you on, but I'm going to try and keep it to the point, which is a challenge for me because I'm a pretty wordy person. So here we go. The first thing I want to update you on is to thank you for praying. My doctor did go ahead and approve 3 of the 4 tests that the naturopathic doctor recommended. So these tests that we're running are trying to figure out if what is behind those things is CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And if it is, it would actually kind of explain my journey with anxiety, kind of the last 12 years that started that long ago, because that was when I had my first major exposure to mold, and CIRS is often triggered by mold. In this case, that's what we're trying to figure out for me. And it's not so much that the mold gets in your system that's the problem, but for people who have CIRS, they're just genetically not inclined to clear it out correctly. And so their body just creates more and more inflammation in its attempts to move the mold out of its system, such that all the inflammation it creates is what ends up wreaking havoc and causing a lot of health problems. So looking back at some of my symptoms, I had a really anxious bladder for many, many years that started 12 years ago, where I just would have to pee all the time. And it wasn't just like a thought in my head. It was like, no, my body actually could go every time I went to the bathroom, which I always thought was a really weird and inconvenient anxiety symptom. And I just never really understood why that was how my anxiety primarily manifested. But it turns out that that is one of the hallmarks signs of CIRS. And so that was really interesting to me, because I didn't necessarily feel anxious when it was happening, other than that I felt anxious that I always had to go, and that made me anxious. So I think that would be lovely to find out if that is what caused it, and if not, I guess it was just a weird anxiety symptom. Thankfully, that piece has been under control for the last couple years on the higher doses of anxiety meds that I'm on. But anyway, other things include vertigo and dizziness and vision problems, all of which I've experienced pretty severely about 2 years ago. They lasted for a good 7-8 months, just pretty much nonstop. And then that all followed another big mold exposure. So we're really hoping that's what this is, because it would mean we would know how to effectively treat it. And what I'm living with still today is not so much it's not a constant all the time dizziness. Thankfully, I do feel pretty much like my normal self in the day to day, but what I struggle with is when I get behind the wheel of a car. It's all the visual stimulus that I see, and just taking in traffic and taking in bright lights and shadows on the road and everything, that just really overwhelms my system and just triggers a lot of anxiety and then panic feelings and all of that make it really hard to drive and feel safe on the road. And as a 35-year-old woman, that's really inconvenient when you're a mom and you've got things to do and places to go. So that's really what I'm trying to tackle and push through here, and figure out really what is the root cause behind it, because it definitely comes and goes in waves. And so when it spiked again this spring, and seemingly really out of the blue, like I had been doing so much better. I had even been doing vision therapy, and my therapist there thought I was doing so much better too. And then all of a sudden the next week I wasn't. It just didn't really make sense. So that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. That's why I stopped eating sugar. And as I was meeting with my doctor and then this naturopathic doctor to just try and get their thoughts and input on anything else that I could do to work on those symptoms, that's where we heard about CIRS and are trying to figure out if that is what is causing those symptoms specifically and causing flares in them. So on the note of those tests, I do just have to say that God has really provided in that it felt like so long to wait a couple weeks after passing that information on to my doctor to hear back to see if she was even willing to order them so that insurance would help with them, because a lot of this stuff when you're investigating CIRS comes out of pocket, so we're trying to avoid that as much as possible. But it just felt like all these years of symptoms, and I finally was maybe on the right trail to figure out what was going on. And it was just so hard when you have a chronic condition and you think you may have found something that will help you move forward in treating that. It's really hard to wait and be patient. But in the grand scheme of things, a couple weeks to find out that we could actually do these tests is really not that long. And then after she approved ordering those, it really came together quite quickly. I actually had the blood test done last week and got phone calls just last week and then the beginning of this week that I could get the breathing tests both in now. So I've actually done all 3 of those. They were checking the antidiuretic hormone in my blood, which actually is what would be causing that bladder urgency. So I'm a little bit curious to see if that will really indicate anything, since that symptom is under control on this higher level of medication. I did look it up, and the anxiety medication that I'm on does work on that, and it does increase that level. So I think we're looking for a low level. So I don't know how much we'll learn from that particular test, but it will be hopefully a helpful piece to get back of the puzzle. And then the doctor also requested that I do a sleep apnea test and a pulmonary function test, because CIRS from mold exposure can affect the way that your airways are working and just the amount of oxygen that you are getting regularly. And some of those autonomic functions of, like, it wouldn't be a sleep apnea from snoring as much as it would be from just like the muscles not getting the signal to breathe in and out regularly. There might be like a pause now and then that could cause a decrease in oxygen, which could certainly cause fatigue and anxiety, since that was something that I really struggled with this year as well. Pretty much January, I would say, until the end of May, that was really super intense. So thankfully though, we should get results back pretty soon, probably in the next couple weeks on those tests. And then we'll see if we're going to go ahead and order that final blood test, melanocyte something hormone. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't one my doctor was familiar with, so that's fine. Sometimes you'll run into that where it's not one they're familiar with checking, so they don't know how to manage it, and they don't want to order it, and that's okay. So we'll see what we can tell from these 3, and if we need to go about ordering that on our own through the naturopathic doctor or what. Other good news is that I have been feeling significantly more energetic and less anxious since I started the supplements that the naturopathic doctor recommended. So I'm trying to think, it was probably almost a month ago at this point. No, that can't be right. The last video was 3 weeks ago. It was probably about 3 weeks ago that I met with the naturopathic doctor, and he suggested that I go on a couple of supplements. One was like mitochondria support. It tastes like perfume. It's supposed to be watermelon. It's weird, but just make a little concoction up in the morning and drink that with my apple cider vinegar that I regularly do, just for good gut health and acid reflux. Apple cider vinegar has always been more helpful than medication, so just a tablespoon or so of apple cider vinegar and cold water in the morning, and that has gotten rid of any acid reflux that I've had. So anyway, yes, so I've been taking that mitochondria support, and we changed the magnesium I was taking to a magnesium glycinate, and added in a mineral supplement as well. With doing keto, that's something that can get low. Your minerals can get low, and that can actually cause a lot of fatigue too. So since adding those things in, I feel like a whole new person. I have tons of energy now during the day. There are still days where it's like, nope, I need a nap, or after a really overstimulating time out running errands and driving, that I come home and I'm ready for a rest. But I don't sleep the rest of the night. I just take a nap for a little bit and then I get up and I'm ready to go. So that is a huge, huge improvement already, kind of tackling one of the two main things of the fatigue and the anxiety and driving that I was really wanting to work on. So I'm thankful to see that. Yeah, I think those are all the supplements. My doctor as well had given a couple suggestions. She had suggested another anxiety medication, which I did fill and pick up, but I haven't taken it yet because I wanted to give these supplements time to work, and I feel like they are. And she also suggested that I meet with the therapist. I didn't realize this, but some doctors' offices actually have a therapist like on staff that you can meet with for a certain number of times, and they can help you get connected to somebody that's a good fit in the community. So they really enjoyed the therapist that they have at their office, and I met with her once, and I can see why. She's very knowledgeable and very personable. And so I got to meet with her and kind of just share this health journey that I've been on for really the last 12 years of dealing with anxiety and these strange physical symptoms, and then the dizziness, and now that's mostly resolved, but why hasn't the comfort level with driving around town come back, and why was there this fatigue, and just trying to sort through all of those emotions around that and see if there any piece of that was related to, I don't know, some unresolved trauma or psychology thing. But it was interesting to hear, and we'll meet again in July, but her initial feelings were very much like, those sound like a lot of physical symptoms. So yeah, I can see why you'd feel anxious when all these things are happening to your body. So that was very validating to hear, that she didn't initially just jump to like, oh, are you sure you feel that way? It's not all in your head, is it? So she's already on my good side just because of that. And so we'll see where we go. And I'm not saying there's not part of it that's like psychological or connected to that, because I do very much see how stress can really affect the body, and how mindset really makes a difference in the way you feel. But I do think that in my case, there are a lot of physical components going on, and I think those are influencing my mental health. So it'll be interesting to see where our sessions go and what I learned there, and then if she's able to help me find or who she's able to help me find to connect with in the community that's a mental health professional that I could continue to work with. I have worked with about 4 different licensed counselors, social workers, professional therapists in the community, and just hadn't really found a super good long-term fit. So it will be interesting to see if I'm able to find that this time around. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'm just finding people that help me for a season, and that's okay too. But overall, I really haven't found therapy so far to help me move through this anxiety or with driving, or this anxiety with the dizziness piece. It just didn't really make a big impact on that. I think that the physical side of rest and a life change for a while was really what my body needed to rest and reset and get stronger. So I'm thankful that I was able to do that. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and just know that wherever you are on this journey, you're not alone. God is with you. People like me who are going through chronic conditions and trying to figure things out, we're there too. There's lots of us out there, and just know that you're not alone, and you're going to be okay. And take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.